The studio lights burned like small suns as Kevin Costner sat across from Michael Strahan on Good Morning America. The talk was meant to be a friendly chat about Costner's new film, a Western epic he had poured his heart and savings into. But from the first question, the air turned tense enough to cut through the fake morning smiles. Strahan, ever confident, leaned in and asked with a grin, "Kevin, some people say you've lost touch with reality. Too old-fashioned, too controlling on set. What do you say to that?" The room froze. Even viewers at home could feel it. Costner's jaw stiffened, his eyes narrowing just slightly. A flicker of disbelief passed behind his calm face. The crew shifted uneasily, sensing something real was building beneath that surface calm. "Michael," he said steadily, "people confuse passion with control when they've forgotten what real filmmaking feels like." His tone was quiet, but it carried weight. The studio fell silent. Strahan gave a short laugh, brushing it off, but his words turned sharper. "Come on, Kevin, you walked off Yellowstone. You've had public fallouts. You financed your own film because no one would back it. Doesn't that sound like ego?" The word hung between them like poison. Kevin leaned back, his expression unreadable, the camera zooming in to catch the faint tremor beneath his coolness. "You know what ego looks like to me?" he said slowly. "It's when a man confuses entertainment with journalism." The audience gasped. Strahan blinked, thrown off. The control room buzzed. Producers whispering, one mouthing, "Cut to break." But the cameras kept rolling. Costner continued, his voice calm but piercing. "I've been in this business 40 years. I've built sets, not gossip empires. Maybe it's time we remember the difference." The silence that followed was heavy, not awkward. Strahan tried to recover, flashing his famous smile that had charmed countless guests. "Kevin, I'm just asking what the audience wants to know." "It's my job." Costner nodded slightly. "Then maybe your audience deserves better questions." The crowd laughed nervously, unsure if this was still banter or a real confrontation. Kevin stayed composed, but his every word carried the edge of a man tired of being misunderstood. Strahan shifted in his chair, realizing this was no light-hearted segment. "You sound frustrated," he said. "Maybe I am," Kevin admitted quietly. "Not with you, but with how truth has turned into a soundbite. We used to make art. Now we chase clicks." The crew behind the cameras watched, wide-eyed, as the mood thickened. Costner wasn't shouting, but there was a chill in his tone. "When I put my money into a movie," he said, "I'm risking everything because I still believe stories matter. If that's old-fashioned, then maybe we need more of it." Strahan crossed his arms. "So you think the media's the problem?" Kevin turned toward him, eyes sharp. "I think we forgot who we're talking to. People still want honesty. You can laugh, but I didn't come here to play PR games." Someone whispered again, "Go to commercial." But the director hesitated. The moment was too real. Strahan pressed on. "So no regrets about leaving Yellowstone?" Kevin gave a faint, humorless smile. "I regret trusting people who didn't value commitment," he said softly. The audience murmured. It wasn't just an answer. It was a confession. Strahan tried to pivot. "You're talking about Taylor Sheridan." Kevin didn't respond directly. "I'm talking about when a handshake used to mean something and now it's just a headline." The air felt thick. Cameras hummed. Hearts raced. Social media was already exploding. Clips were trending before the interview even ended. "Kevin Costner destroys Strahan live," one post read. Another said, "Costner gives a masterclass on integrity." But in the studio, it was tense. Strahan smiled stiffly, trying to regain control. "Kevin, I respect your passion, but people might say you're being defensive." Costner leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. "Defensive is when you care what others think. I'm not defensive. I'm done pretending." The words hit like thunder. The crowd didn't clap, they just stared. It wasn't performance. It was raw truth. The producer signaled to wrap, but Strahan, maybe out of pride, asked one last question. "You've been called difficult. What do you say to that?" A small, knowing smile touched Kevin's lips. "They're right," he said. "I'm difficult if you don't care. I'm demanding if you're lazy. And I'm uncompromising if you think fame replaces effort." Every layer of TV polish vanished. Strahan exhaled, realizing he'd lost control, and maybe something deeper. Kevin had just turned a fluffy segment into a cultural moment. When the show finally cut to break, the studio buzzed with whispers. Strahan stood, straightening his jacket, his smile gone. Costner stayed seated, calm, reflective. A producer rushed over to apologize. He waved them off. "Don't," he said. "You wanted honesty. You got it." Outside, social media erupted. "Kevin Costner just said everything Hollywood's been afraid to say," one comment read. Another, "That was the most real thing I've seen on live TV in years." Within minutes, the clip had millions of views. Backstage, Strahan approached Kevin quietly. "You know I respect you," he said. Kevin met his gaze. "I know, Michael, but sometimes respect means not turning someone into a headline." The words weren't cruel. They were true. Strahan nodded, speechless. For the first time, he seemed to see the man behind the legend, still fighting for something that couldn't be measured in ratings. "I didn't mean to cross a line," Strahan said. "You didn't," Kevin replied, putting a hand on his shoulder. "You just reminded me why I stopped doing this." That night, the story dominated every network. Analysts called it the interview that cracked the mask. Others praised Costner for bringing sincerity back to Hollywood. But for Kevin, it wasn't about going viral. It was about truth. Sitting alone later, he replayed the clip. When he saw himself say, "Maybe your audience deserves better questions," he didn't smile. He just whispered, "Maybe we all do." By morning, the internet was still on fire. Headlines twisted the story to fit their angles. Kevin Costner loses temper on GMA. Costner embarrasses Strahan. Hollywood legend goes rogue. But beyond the noise, people were listening. Comment sections filled with respect from viewers tired of scripted answers. On his ranch outside Santa Barbara, Kevin watched the chaos unfold on his iPad. The horses grazed outside as dawn lit the hills. He sighed, not with regret, but a quiet peace. "They'll twist it," he murmured. But maybe someone heard me. At ABC headquarters in New York, panic meetings erupted. Some wanted to apologize to Strahan, others wanted to ride the viral wave. The social media manager interrupted. "It's our highest engagement in 5 years." The room went silent. Ratings spoke louder than outrage. Still, Strahan sat alone, scrolling through comments. Some defended him, most praised Costner. Strahan tried to bait him. Costner stayed real. That line echoed in his mind. For the first time, he felt the glossy world of morning TV had cracked, and truth had slipped through. Later that day, Strahan called his producer. "I want a follow-up. No PR script. I'll speak honestly." The team hesitated, but the numbers didn't lie. The next morning, he sat on air alone. "Yesterday's talk with Kevin Costner got a lot of attention," he began. "I asked hard questions, maybe too hard. But what stayed with me was what he said about truth and passion. And maybe he was right. Viewers were stunned. For once, there were no cue cards, no polished lines, just honesty on live TV.